everyone. Welcome, welcome. Thank you so much for being here. It's wonderful to see the numbers going up as everyone comes in. Hello and welcome, University of Michigan alumni and friends. My name is Kiara Trotter, and I'm the Director of Alumni Career and Education for your Alumni Association. I use she, her pronouns. We're thrilled to have Adam Schmidt and Peter Vasher join us as we explore today's topic, which is leveraging public sector skills to pivot to a new career path. Today's mini webinar is part of a series designed to support those embarking on a job search, whether unexpected or planned. And this is tomorrow, sorry, this is not our final one. Tomorrow is our final webinar, and that will be a live Q&A with expert career coaches. You can find more information and job search resources on a website that we have just created, and that link is in the chat. Feel free to share this with your networks. Before we start, please note that this webinar is being recorded and the recording will be shared in a follow-up email early next week. Please submit your questions using the Q&A feature in your toolbar. The chat is also open for you to engage with other participants during the session. Since this mini webinar is only 30 minutes long, we may not get to all of your questions, but please submit them anyway. We'll do our best to address them here or in the follow-up information you'll receive early next week or in tomorrow's live Q&A session. All right, so I will now tell you a little bit about today's speakers. Adam Schmidt is an expert in training, leadership coaching, and talent development. A former Army officer, he is experienced in designing, developing, and delivering talent development strategies for public and private organizations. As a skilled facilitator, leadership coach, and communicator, he offers exceptional ability to connect with and enable high-performing leaders and teams. He is a master certified coach, certified team coach, and a certified facilitator. He holds a BS from the United States Military Academy, a Master of Public Policy from the University of Michigan, and executive certificates in leadership coaching and facilitation from Georgetown University. And now, Peter Vasher. As Director of Career Services, Peter works with University of Michigan Ford School of Public Policy students to discover future career paths, navigate their career journey, and develop and enhance professional competencies and skills. He leads strategic career program development, employer relations strategy, and collaborates on alumni engagement. He oversees the MPP internship requirement for Ford School internship funding. And Ford School internship funding. Peter holds a Master of Education in Higher Education from the University of South Florida and a Bachelor of Arts from the University of Michigan. Prior to joining the Ford School, Peter worked in career services and academic advising at the U of M College of Engineering, Purdue University, and the University of South Florida. So I'll turn it over to Adam and Peter. Thank you so much for being with us today, and it's all yours.
Thank you, Kira. I appreciate it. And I know we'll get straight to it because we have a short time together today. And Peter and I would both like to kind of share some overarching thoughts and then allow your questions to do a lot of the driving of our conversation today. So please do use that Q&A chat function that's available to you. You know, what a moment we are in together. Rapid change in the public sector, to say the least. Hiring freezes, policy changes, shifting priorities. And we are here today to think about how does this show up for me? How does this manifest for me? And what changes does it mean? And so I have a few thoughts that I'd like to share as just kind of overarching mindset before I hand it to Peter to think maybe a little bit more about some of the tactical actions associated with this shift that we're all in. The first is that pivoting can often be interpreted as a failure, that I've done something wrong and I need to move on from everything that I used to do and go in a brand new direction. And I'd like to offer that in the career coaching and leader development space, we think of pivoting not as a failure, but a strategy. And there are very specific things you can do in a career pivot to think about a new direction, not because you want to abandon your career goals, but because you want to expand on those career goals. The second thing I'll mention is as you begin to think about this shift, a new way of thinking about what you can bring to the marketplace, and in particular, how you can continue to have the impact you want to have. Because if you're in this room, you likely started just like I did, thinking about how can I make a difference in this space? We want you to begin thinking about who you are, not what you do. Especially in the early part of our career, we can get very focused on what do I do? I do data analytics. I do leadership development. I do coding. I do policy writing. Begin to think about who I am because it is the who that will carry you to the next thing, not necessarily the what. The what is the animation of who you are. So, are you a problem solver? Are you a stakeholder manager? Are you someone who has the ability to think strategically and act tactically? Are you someone who has a knack for aggregating information or aggregating emotions in a room? Who are you that you can bring to this next opportunity? So begin to let go of what I used to do and think about who I am, because the next and last kind of strategic piece that I'll leave you with today is this. Networking and storytelling will be key to this pivot. And beginning to think about the story you tell is not about what I used to do is, or what I really loved is, it's who I am. So when that interviewer asks you, well, tell me a little bit about yourself, Peter, the answer doesn't begin with the things that I do, it's the things that I am. The distinction we want to make here is a mindset shift from a human doing something to a human being in front of you. This is a very powerful shift, especially for those in the mid and latter parts of their career, thinking about I know what I can do. And in fact, I've got a whole resume of things that show what I can do, but who am I? So as I begin to animate my network, the job market is going to reward those who can connect with people and communicate the value that they bring through who they are. It might sound like this. I realize that you're looking for a new vice president of operations here at Expo Core, and I can appreciate everything that you've listed in the role. And in fact, I can do those things, and I've got a resume to show it. But I'd like to think today with you about who I am and what I can bring to this role in terms of new thinking, in terms of my experience, my stakeholder management skills, my emotional intelligence. This is the storytelling that we want to begin to bring to life when we go through a career pivot, because we know instinctually the what might not get us there. It's why we're using this word pivot, this reframe, this strategy to move, make a shift in our career. It's not reliant on the what, it is reliant on the who. More on all that in a minute, but I'll hand it to Peter to think about some things too, and then please feel free to get your questions rolling so we can do as much talking as we can in the last 22 minutes or so. Peter.
Thanks, Adam. So Adam talked a little bit about the reflection of self and then a reflection of the miniseries. So for those that have joined us for the last 4 days here with the Alumni Association too, we're building up throughout the week. So thinking back to Monday and the skills analysis, so those top 10 leadership skills that were discussed, and then thinking about strategic networking with the 3 E's that were mentioned in terms of enhancing your network, expanding your network, and energizing your network. And then yesterday, certainly with the different components about skills-based resumes, certainly as well. So building upon all of that and what Adam shared is that reflection of self. And then thinking about systems, thinking about strengths, and thinking about non-starters. So at a pivot and at a point where each person is at a different point in career, at point in life, and that matters. And that matters for our structures and that matters for our search. So knowing your strengths, knowing yourself as an individual in terms of where it is and what are the non-negotiables or the non-starters that you have. For example, coming out of graduate school, my search was driven by geographic location. I wanted to be near a lake, a mountain, or an ocean. I did not have a lot of ties at that time. I did not have a family. Now I'm a dad, have a partner, and my considerations are different. So I think the honesty and self-reflection of, am I geographically bound, or do I have opportunity to move? And being honest with that assessment. I was having a conversation with an alum of ours, who's 20 plus years into career, potentially embarking on a pivot. Kids in high school in eighth grade, they're not going to leave the DMV right now, and that's a reality. So therefore, their search and pivot is driven by either remote forward work, roles that can be traveling Monday through Thursday, or something that is hybrid or in person in the DMV area with a specific commute radius for that individual of an hour to an hour and a half. Like that is a non-starter that they've laid out. So like, what is that for you? And understanding that, and thinking about the systems and the systems we're coming from. So in a pivot, we're coming from a sector to another sector potentially. The federal government for any of our impacted federal workers and alumni. USA Jobs is a beast of a system. KSA's knowledge, skills, and abilities, having an 8-page resume. We need to condense that down to fit the system and structure with which you are exploring. So maybe it's a pivot to state government. They're so far have identified 5 different states that are looking to hire federal workers as an example. So the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, New York, Maryland, Virginia, Operation Hire Hawaii, the county and city of Honolulu also has a hiring initiative. And we will see more of those things pop up too in the near future. But understanding the different structures and understanding the systems that are going to lead into that skill set are certainly things to be mindful of as well. If you're looking to go into the private sector, what does that mean? Getting to that 1-page resume if you're 5 to 10 years out of your master's or undergraduate degree, whatever it might be. But understanding the roles and then understanding the structures and systems of support there. Within the public sector, we love organization charts. We love information. There's a lot that's out there that you can be intentional to research right now to begin to understand what are these titles? What do they actually do? Looking at org charts, looking at job titles, and then reviewing the different skills and opportunities that come from that. And then we have that skills analysis, the resume connection for alignment. So I know throughout the week, there's been a lot of discussion of AI tools that can be used to help inform and help kind of match and align language from maybe the sector you're coming from prior. And then how can we make that intentional and unique to the sector you're seeking out in? But we kind of do think about controlling the controllables within your search. What are your non-starters? What are your strengths? As Adam said, reflection of self, connection to network, and then doing the research certainly as well to have a more thorough understanding. And that's about connecting with people. That's about using LinkedIn and reverse engineering the pathways of people and people that have made pivots. We've had people that have pivoted within the Ford School that have been nurses prior are now consultants. And it's about reframing of language and reframing of skill. Kind of that starts with that reflection of self overall. I can pause there. Adam, I don't know if there's anything you want to jump in with.
I know we had a few questions in advance, Peter. I wonder if we address a couple thoughts on those. What do you think? Is that a good direction to go?
Yeah, that can
So
work.
we got a question, tips for late career applicants to avoid ageism. A very real and worthy concern as you think about maybe that mid-latter part of your career. And I'll offer just a couple thoughts in these spaces. There are a few mindsets and themes you'll want to approach the marketplace with as a more seasoned professional looking to get into a new market. The first is focusing on new skills, new technologies that you've recently acquired to show that you are a lifelong learner, right? You have not stopped learning. Yes, I'll use myself as an example. I got an MPP in 2010, but I've never stopped. That was just the beginning of a learning journey, right? And since then, maybe you can report that you've gotten different certifications along the way. You went back to school for an executive certificate, whatever it might be. So we want to focus on new skills and new technologies. The second piece is to position yourself as a mentor and leader. So this is an opportunity to talk about what I can bring to this environment is not, again, not only the what you want to do. Who am I? I've got 20 years of experience in the rearview mirror. I know how to lead teams. I know how to mentor, advise, consult internally, and how to make projects actually come to life. Something that either your competition for the role or the folks that you're applying for could find really attractive in you. So when thinking about ageism, ask you to reframe as here I am, a seasoned professional that wants to come in and help a little bit more in that mentor and leadership space. So I wanted to make sure we address that one, Peter, because I thought it was a good one and maybe relevant to more than one person on here.
And please feel free to go ahead and put your questions in the Q&A. You're also welcome to put them in the chat if you like. Adam and Peter, something that came up in one of our previous sessions that feels relevant to today's session. Someone said that one of the issues they're facing is that they don't know what type of job they want. Their sector has been completely decimated, and so they're starting from scratch. Any tips on how to help people learn more about themselves and what type of job they should actually be pursuing?
Go ahead, Peter. I definitely, yeah.
I'll start on this one.
Yeah.
So I think uh, to Adam's kind of opening point there too, a reflection of self. A place to start is thinking about the skills and the skills developed to this point in time, and thinking about that transferability a little bit too. I remember having a past conversation with a CEO actually on this exact topic. And it's, can you come up with five, if that seems tangible, skills of things that you find great enjoyment of? So when we think about a stoplight and a green, yellow, red light, um, and like, what are those green light activities for you? So when we think about the 40-hour asterisk work week, like where are you thriving, where are you finding enjoyment, and not, when a calendar invite, whether that's Outlook or Gmail, pops up, it's something you're not finding dread in, but is actually energizing. So I think how we've approached that in the past is, can you come up with five tangible skills or experiences as a part of past role, where you're finding enjoyment, and then build out that skill list, and then kind of again thinking AI tools or thinking about other tools we have, connecting those skills to roles where that is going to be 80% or whatever that percentage might be of the position too, is a strategy. I don't know if you have anything to add there.
Yeah, certainly. Thanks, Peter. If I can, I'm just going to share one quick screen for a few seconds. Hopefully it shows up well here. Did that come through? It's career transition. So this is the arc of transition I work with clients on, and I'm so glad to hear this question because it says you're not jumping ahead. This idea of a pivot or searching for something new is a process, and I've shaped it here in in an arc, and the symptoms that you might be having if you've jumped ahead on this are: I've applied to hundreds of jobs and I've heard nothing back, or I've handed out my resume, I've talked to my network and nothing's coming back. It's possible that you might need to go back and think through some of these earlier things. I'm not pointing into space. It just happens to be over here on my monitor. Why am I considering a transition? Could be that the space dried up. Could be that I was let go from my federal government opportunity, or another reason. What do I want to do? What does this look like? Is it facilitation? Is it policy analysis? Is it data analytics? What's the field that really inspires me? And then how does this manifest? Where do those opportunities exist? And then it's, who do I need to engage? So it's activating my network and writing that resume and that cover letter after I've had the time for self-reflection and definition, that I can clearly articulate Peter, I want to do data analytics in the nonprofit sector. And it's okay if it takes you effort to get there. And to answer the question about how to get there, I'll make a $22.91 recommendation as a place to start. And I'll stop my, I don't know, stop sharing here. And that is to get the if it wasn't given to you through the Ford School yet, the StrengthsFinder 2.0. StrengthsFinder is a really inexpensive way to learn to talk about yourself. If you haven't done it yet, go to Amazon. Like, I don't get any kickback on this. It's $22 today. The price changes every day. It's one of those weird Amazon things. And grab a copy of the real book for yourself, like the hard copy, like the old people kind of book. And it has an access code in the back to take a really quick assessment. Of course, it's not perfect. It's not like this, self-repair kind of thing. It says you might have an aptitude for this kind of thing. You might be really good at communicating, connecting, influencing. You might be an organizer. You might be a presenter. You might be someone who has quite a bit of what they call woo, the ability to kind of think through challenges with people and convince them to come to your side. This can be a great tool to learn to begin, how do I talk about myself when I activate my network, which everyone keeps telling me to do, and I finally get somebody on the phone that knows somebody who knows somebody that I know. What do I say? I got to tell them who I am and what I want. And if you can't do those two things, it's difficult to activate that network. So when Peter and I keep saying, like, call your network, activate your network, you got to know this is who I am and this is what I want. I'm convinced that 99 out of 100 people that you'll talk to in your network, they want to help you. We've got to lead the horse to water and say, what I'm looking for is, anyone that you know that's connected to the data analytics space in the nonprofit sector, well, big or small. Honestly, I don't really care at this point, Peter. I'll talk to United Way. I'll talk to, Joe's Shoes on the corner. I just want to be involved in data analytics in the nonprofit sector. So I'll stop there, but can't encourage you enough to spend that $22.91 today to go get your StrengthsFinder.
Thank you. We had a couple more questions come in. So this first one is going back to the topic of ageism, but from a different perspective. Would you say there's also possible ageism towards younger or less experienced applicants in the public sector? And if so, what are some ways to avoid that?
So I think with that, you know, experience can be found in a number of different ways. And we at the University of Michigan with our alumni base, we are very active. Current students, very active. Current graduate students, very active. Even thinking about USA Jobs, thinking about the different applications that might exist from the public sector or pivoting to other spaces too. Experience does not have to necessarily always be something that is directly aligned with job. So I think being intentional on resumes and a part of the toolkit of like where have you been intentional to get experience, broadly speaking, whether that's volunteering, whether that is involvement in some capacity, whether that is in school, out of school, community service engagement, something in that capacity too. So I think that building upon and articulating a vast array of experiences can be a way to approach that. Tactically, um, we see some people that where do you place the education section on your resume is a choice that can be made, whether that's the top or the bottom, depending on what is strategic for the choice that you're making. So I think that we want to be honest with the skills and experiences we've had, but we can be broad in what those skills and experiences are. And then with the time, if someone is seeking to gain experiences, those experiences can be both something that is in an internship or a professional experience, but also that volunteer space. So like what can you proactively do now if there's time that's available to kind of generate and be intentional about skill development a little bit there too.
That's great. Thank you. Next question. Any tips for getting past the resume screen or the computer without having exact experience or job titles in that industry?
Certainly. So I think what some call like applicant tracking systems, ATSs, they can be tricky. Two recommendations in particular. Rely on the fact first that the hiring committee or hiring manager will very likely use the job posting description as the input to the ATS. And so, as best as you can, mirror the language within the job description that you have. That can include what we call mirroring or using synonyms in your resume. So if I'm applying for a new job, I might not want to just call myself a leadership coach or just a talent development professional. The title on the job might be talent development professional and leadership coach, right? And so we don't want to get too hokey with this. We can quickly slip into like and facilitator and presenter and dad and right. So we want to be smart about it, but be brave in saying something like, you know, uh, data analytics professional, parenthesis, program management, and resource budgeting as one example to give you a couple more of those words and to ultimately give a real human, when it gets to that point, a little bit more insight into, okay, they were over at Department of State doing this. This is a little different, but we've got someone with the experience there. So those are the two tips I'd send on your way for that is mirroring and leveraging that job description, even if it is feels slightly imperfect to get through that ATS.
Definitely agree with Adam. And just to this point, I think sometimes in pivoting sectors or reframing experiences, we be intentional. I think that sometimes we think that employers will infer experience, but you need to be direct. And so, with that mirror language that Adam was talking about, be direct, be intentional. Don't infer that they will get what you're talking about. You need to be proactive to make them understand and align with whatever that organization is or that sector is in terms of that language and kind of that skill reframe. So yes, a little flexibility on titles there, but I really kind of leverage skills and a skill reframe from past experience to the positions that you are seeking.
That's great. Thank you. We have a few more questions. We might be able to get to one or two more. So this one is building off of something that we've already touched on, but maybe going in a slightly different direction. Can you talk more about how to go about networking, especially if you don't know where your career might take you next? So as you're learning more about yourself and what you want next, do you have any tips for how to network in the midst of some of that uncertainty?
Yeah, and I would try to do my best to type in an answer to this one, trying to help us get as many as we can. And at a minimum, encourage you to be able to articulate your strengths to when you engage someone with your network, so that you can say, what really energizes me is working with groups of people toward a common goal in the policy sector. What really energizes me is the opportunity to train and develop leaders at large organizations. It's okay if it's a little bit bigger than we know you need at the end of the day to be able to say, like, this is what I really want. But if you're ready to engage with that network, can't stress enough, it's so important. You can at least describe, this is what fires me up. This is what I get really excited about when before I go to sleep at night. Peter?
Yeah, and I think I would start small with that too. If you're trying to network to generate ideas of spaces or sectors that you might be interested in, think about family friend connections and build off of that to kind of that snowball, impact. I am doing research on this, as Adam said, the skills that energize me. I'm trying to learn about potential avenues and just about fields. And I think the ask can be, can you connect me to a friend? And just build from there with that kind of snowball effect to idea generate and learn from others.
That's awesome. Thank you. We're going to go ahead and close out, but Adam is typing another response to one of the questions in the Q&A. And so whether it's that or some other way, we'll get answers to the questions we weren't able to address during the live session. All right. Thank you so much. This is day 4 of our series and just as strong as the other ones. Please thank me, not thank me, join me.
Thank you, Kara.
You're welcome. Thank you. Join me in extending a genuine and heartfelt thanks to today's presenters, Adam and Peter. I know that I mentioned in their bios that they're alums, and we love that. We also love that they've been so generous with their time. You're welcome to connect with them on LinkedIn, so go ahead and look them up now if you like. Thank you, Adam and Peter, for your time, your expertise, and for giving back to the University of Michigan, especially at this very critical time. As a reminder, a recording of today's session will be sent to you via email as a follow-up early next week. And a link to our survey is in the chat. Please fill it out. We read every single point of feedback we receive and we use it. And don't forget to explore our website for amazing resources that are available to you on demand. Thank you everyone for sharing your time with us today, and go Blue.